I still remember the night everything changed. It was late, sometime after midnight, and I was lying in my small blue bedroom inside my brick house on the west side of Denver, America. The room was warm from the old heater near the window, but my body felt cold from the pain that kept spreading through my stomach. I had been pregnant for almost 4 months, and although the doctors kept warning me that the pregnancy was fragile, I kept telling myself that if I stayed calm, maybe the baby would stay safe. My partner, Marcus Hayes, stood at the foot of the bed with his arms crossed, acting as if I was upsetting him instead of needing help. He told me I was overreacting and that I always made small things seem big. He said this while I was bent over in pain, trying to breathe through what felt like knives twisting inside me. I had believed that he loved me. I had thought that his family cared about me. I had believed that the life growing inside me meant something to them. Looking back now, I see how blind I was. But that night, all I wanted was to keep my child alive. When the pain got worse, and I asked Marcus to call an ambulance, he sighed like I had interrupted his evening. Finally, after I nearly collapsed in the hallway, he agreed to take me to the hospital. When I woke up the next morning, the soft beeping of hospital machines filled the room. My body felt strangely light, like something had gone missing. Moments later, a doctor I had never met before stepped inside. His voice was cold and flat when he told me that the baby was gone. He left before I could even ask questions. Marcus sat in the corner with his phone in his hand, not looking at me. He did not touch me or offer a single word of comfort. The only emotion I saw in his face was annoyance, as if the loss of the pregnancy had created trouble for him. His mother, Irene, walked in later with the same stiff smile she used whenever she wanted to hide her dislike for me. She gave a brief sorry for your loss, but the words sounded rehearsed and empty. Then there was Claire, his ex, who appeared at the doorway like she belonged there. She whispered something to Marcus, and he smiled in a way I had not seen in months. I had just lost my baby, and they stood there acting like the moment was an inconvenience. 2 days after I was sent home, Marcus handed me papers to sign. He claimed they were insurance forms. When I reached for them, I saw the title for a split second. Emergency Mental Evaluation. My stomach dropped. I asked him why he would need that. He brushed me off and told me I was emotional and that he was just trying to help. That night, when I poured myself tea in the kitchen, the cup smelled strange. I threw it out. The next day, the same thing happened with the soup he reheated for me. Then again with a glass of juice. A week went by, and I felt sicker than before. I called my mother in Cleveland, America. She lived in a small white house near the lake and always worried about me. She heard the shake in my voice even before I told her anything. Within 2 days, she was standing at my door. She hugged me tightly, and even though she did not say it, I could feel the fear trembling inside her. For the rest of the day, she walked around my house quietly, as if she were reading the walls and the air. She noticed everything. The papers were left on the counter. The half-empty cup on the table. The folder is missing from my office drawer. She did not speak until the next morning, when she slipped her phone into my hand while Marcus was taking a shower. On the screen was a message she had typed. Do not eat. I felt something inside me split open. I realized I was not imagining anything. Something was very wrong. The next morning, when Marcus left for work, I checked my bank accounts. I saw that $2,000 had already been taken from my savings over the past month. Then, another $500. That money had been set aside to help with the baby. I confronted him later, but he told me I was unstable and that pregnancy hormones could make people think strange things. That afternoon, I saw Claire leaving our driveway. In her hand was a folder with a torn corner. It was the same folder that had held my medical notes and some financial papers. When I tried asking Marcus why she had been there, he grew angry and told me I was imagining things again. That evening, my mother and I sat inside my car near the old stone library down the street. The air smelled like rain, and the streetlights cast long shadows across the pavement. My mother finally told me what she had discovered. She said she had seen messages on Marcus's phone the night she arrived. She had not meant to spy, but when his screen lit up in the dark hallway, she saw a message from Irene. It said, Get her signature before she starts asking questions. My heart felt like it was sinking into the ground. My mother wiped the tears from my face and told me that we would get through it together. For the first time in a long while, I felt safe sitting beside her. I did not know what would come next, but I knew one thing. That night, in the car under the streetlight, was the beginning of my fight back. The morning after my mother warned me not to eat anything in the house, I woke up with a strange mix of fear and clarity. Fear, because I finally understood I was in real danger. Clarity, because I finally accepted that everything I had brushed aside for months was part of a pattern. I was not imagining the odd smells in my food, the missing money, or the cold looks from Marcus and his family. I had spent too long trying to convince myself that I was being sensitive. But now I knew the truth. Something dark had been building around me slowly, quietly, like a mist I could not see until it touched my skin. I went through the house that morning with new eyes. The kitchen, where I had once enjoyed peaceful mornings, now felt like a place where someone had been watching every move I made. The living room, with its soft lamp and long couch, felt less like home and more like a scene that had been quietly staged without my consent. Even the bedroom, the one place where I had once felt safe, now carried a heavy sadness. My mother walked beside me as I moved from room to room. She kept her voice calm, even when her eyes showed a growing anger she did not want me to see. Later that day, I went to a small hardware store in Denver and bought 2 tiny cameras for $60 each. I also bought a simple recorder. I felt strange doing it, like I was stepping into a world I had never imagined. But I reminded myself that I had no choice. I placed one camera behind the row of cookbooks in the kitchen and the other on the hallway shelf facing the dining room. I slipped the recorder under the little white table near the stairs, where no one would think to look. My hands shook the whole time, but I forced myself to breathe through it. For the next several days, I saved everything. Every message Marcus sent me. Every strange call from numbers I did not recognize. Every tiny withdrawal from my bank account. Every moment Claire appeared at the house or near Marcus's office. My mother helped me keep track of it all. She sat with me at night, her reading glasses perched on the tip of her nose, sorting papers into neat stacks while I scrolled through emails and screenshots. She had a way of seeing patterns where I saw nothing but fear. One night, she pointed to a set of dates on my bank statements. Money had disappeared on the same days Claire visited Marcus's workplace. Another time, she compared the handwriting on my recent medical notes with the doctor's handwriting from a file I had saved from earlier appointments. They were not the same. The handwriting on the newer notes was tighter, almost rushed, and clearly written by someone who had never met me. The more we looked, the more questions formed. My mother kept her voice gentle, but I could feel her worry growing. Through an old friend of hers, my mother reached out to a private investigator named Jordan Price. She was a woman with sharp eyes and a warm voice that made me feel steady. To avoid suspicion, she visited my house pretending to be a neighbor who had come for tea. While she talked casually about the weather and the rising cost of groceries, she placed a small device near the living room lamp. She told me later that it would help her scan for hidden devices connected to my network. Within an hour, she found 2 of them. I had never put anything like that in my home. When she sat down with me at the dining room table, Jordan asked me to walk her through the last year. I started from the beginning. The pregnancy. The sudden mood swings, the doctor blamed on stress. The strange smells in my food. The missing savings. The nights Marcus came home late with excuses that never made sense. The way Claire kept showing up. The cold reactions after the miscarriage. I told her how I felt confused and broken, and how I thought I was simply grieving. Jordan listened to every word without interrupting, but her expression changed slowly from interest to deep concern. Then I told her about the papers Marcus gave me to sign, the ones with the mental health evaluation. I described the doctor I had never met and how quickly he had left my room. I could see Jordan's jaw tighten. When I spoke about the night I lost the baby, and how no one in Marcus's family seemed concerned, she pressed her lips together in a thin, angry line. My lawyer, Sarah Whitman, came into the picture soon after. She worked in a tall red building in downtown Denver and had the kind of voice that made people stop talking when she walked into a room. When she saw the papers Marcus tried to make me sign, she looked at me with a seriousness that made my heart race. She told me that the contract hidden under those hospital papers was not for insurance at all. It was written by a lawyer named Gerald Locke, someone known in Europe and America for using false mental health claims to take property from women. Sarah said my house, which was worth nearly $350,000, was already listed in a draft transfer plan with Marcus's name as the only owner. Her next sentence changed everything. She looked me in the eyes and said, "This is not just about them. This is a pattern." With Jordan's help, we traced the edited medical notes to a nurse named Emily Burns. She had been working with Gerald for years. They created false psychiatric reports that made women look unstable. Those same reports were used to control inheritances and property rights. I was the newest target. As we gathered everything, I watched the pieces come together. The footage from the camera in the kitchen showed Irene pouring something into my tea. The emails between Marcus and Claire hinted at plans that made my skin crawl. The altered files pointed directly to Emily. The hidden devices in my house traced back to someone connected to Gerald. It was all part of a long chain of planned erasure. When Jordan laid out all the evidence on the dining table, I felt the room spin. Then I felt a fire inside me that I had not felt in months. For the first time, I saw the truth clearly. I had not been losing my mind. I had been fighting for my life without knowing it. And now, I was ready to fight back with my eyes fully open. The morning everything broke open felt colder than usual, as if the air itself knew what was coming. I woke up early, long before the sun rose, and sat at the edge of my bed staring at the soft light coming from the hallway. My mother quietly placed a warm mug of coffee in my hands. I could barely drink it. My stomach felt tight with fear and something else, something like strength rising from deep inside me. I had spent months feeling powerless. This was the day that finally shifted. My lawyer, Sarah, had already sent the full evidence pack to the police, the courthouse, and a journalist team in New York who had been researching crimes that matched the same pattern found in cases across America and parts of Europe. She told me that once the files were out, everything would move fast. She was right. Before noon, I received a message from her telling me that the police were already on their way to Marcus's family home. I drove to his street and parked my car a few houses down. My mother sat beside me quietly, watching me, ready to hold my hand if I needed it. When the police cars arrived, their lights painted the houses red and blue. It felt surreal to watch officers walk up the driveway of the home where I had once been welcomed for dinner, where I had once believed I belonged. Those memories felt distant now, like scenes from someone else's life. Irene came out first, shouting at the officers, as if yelling could erase the truth. Her voice echoed down the street, sharp and angry. Marcus stood behind her, wearing a stiff expression. He looked more confused than guilty, as if he still thought he could talk his way out of everything. Then Claire appeared from the side door. She froze when she saw the officers holding folders and printed files. Her face drained of color. She tried to run back into the house, but they stopped her at the door. I watched them handcuff her. My hands trembled at the sight. I had never expected to see any of them face consequences so quickly. My mother reached over and squeezed my shoulder. Her touch grounded me. For the first time, I felt a spark of justice warming my chest. Meanwhile, officers went to the clinic in Denver where Emily, the corrupt nurse, worked. Jordan sent me a message saying Emily had been arrested in the middle of her shift. Half an hour later, news came that Gerald, the shadow lawyer who had written the contract Marcus tried to trick me into signing, had been taken out of his office in Seattle, America. He had been hiding medical files and financial documents linked to other women. The police froze his accounts before he could move a single dollar. By evening, journalists had received verified statements from Sarah and Jordan. They published a full investigation that spread across the country within a single day. It included the falsified medical reports, the edited psychiatric claims, the secret recordings, the emails between Marcus and Claire, and footage of Irene placing something into my tea. It also included interviews with other victims who had seen the same handwriting on their false medical notes. People all over America began sharing the story. Women from Ohio, New York, Georgia, and even London wrote to the investigator team, saying the same thing. They had been told they were unstable. They had been kept away from their own money. They had trusted people who then tried to control their property. I realized then that my story was not rare. It was part of something bigger, something that needed to be exposed. That night, Marcus tried to come to my house. I saw his car pull into the driveway. My mother and I stood behind the locked door. When he knocked, I opened it only enough to see him, but not enough for him to step inside. His face looked tight with panic and frustration. He tried to speak, but I cut him off. I handed him a copy of the evidence pack that had already been sent to the police and journalists. His eyes widened as he recognized his own emails, his own notes, his own messages to Claire. I closed the door before he could say a single word. The following weeks moved quickly. The court reviewed the evidence and annulled the entire contract Marcus had tried to trick me into signing. My home in Denver was officially confirmed as mine. The judge ordered that every dollar taken from my accounts be returned. Additional penalties were added, giving me back more money than I had lost. It felt like a small piece of justice placed in my hands. Irene lost her role in the family business, which held millions in property and accounts. Claire was charged with fraud. Marcus faced conspiracy charges, along with several counts related to attempted financial theft. Emily, the nurse, faced a long list of crimes for falsifying medical documents. And Gerald, the shadow lawyer, faced charges for manipulating legal records and targeting vulnerable women. During the hearings, my mother sat beside me every single time. She held my hand when my emotions became too heavy. She touched my shoulder when a witness said something painful. She whispered that I was stronger than I knew. I never felt alone again. The courtroom felt cold the day the judge asked if I wanted to speak. For a moment, I felt unsure, but something inside me pushed forward. I stood and looked at the room filled with lawyers, officers, journalists, and the people who had hurt me. I told them what they did. I told them how I lost the baby, how they tried to erase me, how they poisoned my food, how they lied in medical records, how they tried to take my home, and how they believed I would stay silent forever. I kept my voice steady, even when my heart felt heavy. When I finished, I noticed several women in the back row wiping their eyes. I sat down slowly, breathing hard but feeling lighter than I had felt in months. That moment marked the shift inside me. My fight had started with fear and grief, but now it had transformed into something stronger. This was not only about revenge. This was justice. Justice not only for me, but for every woman who had been silenced by lies and power. And for the first time since everything began, I felt hope rising in me again. After the final hearing ended and the courtroom emptied, I walked outside with my mother beside me. The cold air gently touched my face, not sharp like before. It felt like the world had changed just a little. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe without fear sitting on my chest. As I stepped down the granite courthouse steps, I held my mother's hand tightly. She had been my anchor through every storm, and now we were finally stepping into calmer waters. The next day, I woke up in my brick house in Denver and listened to the quiet. It did not feel like the same house where I had once cried myself to sleep, scared of what waited behind every corner. It felt safe now. Warm. Mine. The sunlight through the window felt brighter. Even the wooden floor under my feet felt steadier. With the money returned to me, along with the penalties, I had close to $40,000 in my account again. It was not a fortune, but it gave me space to breathe and rebuild. My mother stayed with me for a month after everything ended. We took slow mornings together. She made coffee the way she always had, with a little vanilla and a pinch of sugar. We cooked meals I had not tasted in years. I forgot how calming it felt to chop vegetables beside her while she hummed one of her old songs from my childhood. Together, we cleaned the house from top to bottom, throwing out anything that held memories I no longer wanted to carry. When we stepped into the backyard to fix the small garden my baby would never get to see, we worked quietly, letting the soft earth sit between our fingers. It hurt, but it also healed something inside me. One evening, as we sat on the porch, I apologized to her for pushing her away during the pregnancy. I told her I had felt ashamed for feeling weak, and that I thought if I told her how scared I was, she would worry too much. She took my hand, looked me in the eyes, and said that a mother never leaves her child, no matter how dark the storm becomes. She said she understood my pain more than I thought, and that she only wished she had come sooner. After she returned to Cleveland, I spent a few days alone, learning how to live in a quiet house without fear. I opened all the windows one morning and let the cold wind fill every room. It felt like letting out the last pieces of poison that had once lived in the air. I started journaling again, something I had stopped when Marcus began telling me I wrote nonsense. Writing gave me back a part of myself I thought I had lost. A week later, while walking near the old stone library on the corner, I ran into a man named Evan. We had seen each other around the neighborhood for years, but we never spoke beyond a polite wave. His family had lived in Denver for a long time. He worked as a community planner and loved helping rebuild older homes around the area. He had gentle eyes, the kind that looked at people without judgment. When we met that day, he asked how I was holding up. I told him the truth, something I had avoided for too long. I told him I was healing slowly and trying to rebuild my life. He nodded and said healing always takes time, but time never fails those who give themselves patience. We talked for hours on a bench outside the library. It did not feel forced. It did not feel rushed. It felt natural, like two people simply breathing in the same rhythm. Over the next few weeks, we shared small conversations when we saw each other. Sometimes it was about books. Sometimes about old homes. Sometimes about nothing important at all. I did not want a relationship quickly, and he did not push for one. Instead, he walked at the same pace I walked, slow and steady. During this time, I also worked with the journalist team that had helped uncover the crimes. They created a long documentary piece that included my testimony, and when it aired, I received calls and messages from women across America and Europe. Some told me they had gone through the same thing. Others said they feared they would have if they had not seen the warning signs in my story. The investigators told me that more than 30 women came forward after hearing what happened to me. Knowing that my voice protected others gave me a strength I never knew I could carry. One evening, I sat on my porch with a blanket wrapped around my shoulders. The garden lights glowed softly in the yard. The breeze moved the wind chimes near the window in a slow, comforting rhythm. I thought about the baby I lost and the life that never came to be. I thought about the danger I did not see at first. I thought about the fear that had nearly broken me. But I also thought about the strength my mother helped me find again. The courage I built piece by piece. And the justice that finally put an end to the people who thought they could erase me. As the wind brushed against my cheek, I realized something important. Justice, when done right, is not only punishment. It is a kind of protection for others. It is a door held open, so no one else must walk alone into the same darkness. Now, I look toward the future with steady steps. My home is mine. My voice is strong. My account is safe. And my heart, though healing slowly, is open again. Not wide open, but open enough to let gentle love in when the time is right. My revenge was never wild or angry. It was careful, thoughtful, exact. It was justice that saved me, punished the guilty, and helped protect other women who had been silenced for too long. Now I rebuild my life in peace. And for the first time in a long time, I believe the future is bright.